I never chose my name. It was given to me, wrapped in headlines before I could spell it, printed on hotel signs before I could even write my own. You know my name, but you don't know me. It was raining that night in New York. One of those quiet, cinematic rains, not the kind that drenches you, but the kind that makes everything feel slower, softer, more honest. There was no stage, no red carpet, just a wet wooden platform under a streetlight on the Columbia Quad, and me, holding a small mirror and a letter I hadn't meant to read out loud. But I was tired of walking through rooms where people decided who I was before I ever said a word, tired of performing a life someone else had designed for me. So I stepped into the rain, and I said it. My name is not me. Not tonight. If you've ever felt like you were living in someone else's story, like you were cast in a role you never auditioned for, then maybe, just maybe, this story isn't just mine. It's yours too. And if something in this already feels like you, like a piece of you has been waiting to hear this, take a second. Like the video. Leave a comment. Tell me who you are behind your name. And if you're new here, hit subscribe. This isn't just a channel, it's a place for people rewriting their own scripts. Because that night, under the rain, I wasn't trying to be famous. I was trying to be free. Growing up, I didn't see myself in the mirror. I saw him. The jawline, the stare, the legacy. Everyone said I looked just like my father, and maybe I did, but no one ever asked if I wanted to. Every smile felt staged. Every laugh felt borrowed. Even as a kid, I could feel the weight in the room shift when I entered. Like people weren't looking at me, they were looking through me, searching for a headline, waiting for the next moment, waiting for me to slip. I had bodyguards before I had best friends. I had stylists before I had choices. And the worst part? Somewhere along the way, I stopped asking who I was, because it seemed like everyone else had already decided. There's a strange kind of loneliness that comes from being seen everywhere, but never actually being known. Not really. I remember once, I was maybe 10, I tried on a hoodie and sunglasses and snuck out to a public park. Just for an hour, just to sit on a bench, just to exist. No cameras, no whispers, no expectations. And, in that one quiet hour, a stranger walked by and didn't even glance my way. It was the first time I felt invisible. And I swear to you, it was beautiful. If you've ever felt like the world gave you a script you didn't write, if you've ever looked in the mirror and seen someone you were told to be, then you're not alone. Keep watching. Because this isn't just about escaping a legacy. It's about discovering the person who's been waiting underneath it the whole time. It only took 11 seconds. That's how long the video was. 11 seconds that shattered everything I thought I had kept private. I was in the school library, exhausted, drained, just trying to get through the day. I muttered something barely louder than a breath. A whisper of frustration, no rage, no meltdown. Just a moment where the weight cracked through the armor. I didn't know someone was filming. But the next morning, I woke up to see me on a screen. My voice, my face, my weakness. It was everywhere, edited, mocked, memed. I became the meltdown kid, the White House crybaby, the soft one. TikTok tore me apart. Twitter made me a joke. Even the ones who claimed to hate my father still devoured that clip. Like pain becomes more entertaining when it's packaged with a famous last name. And in those 11 seconds, they didn't just see me. They erased me. I didn't go to school for 3 days, not because I was embarrassed, but because for the first time, I was afraid to be seen. You know what that does to a kid? It makes you question if being invisible was better after all. If you've ever been reduced to a moment, defined by a single mistake, judged louder than you were ever understood, then you know what it's like to feel like a mirror cracked, and everyone only sees the broken pieces. But I wasn't done yet. Because right when the world tried to define me, someone knocked on my door and reminded me of something I had forgotten. Not who I was, but who I could still choose to be. The knock was soft, almost like he wasn't sure if he should be the one on the other side of the door. I thought it would be an aide, a PR guy, someone with a plan to fix the media mess I'd become. But it was him. No suit, no cameras, no red tie. Just a gray t-shirt and tired eyes that looked older than usual. He didn't say much at first. He just sat at the edge of my bed, like a man who didn't come to control the moment, but to feel it. "So," he finally said, "they got you." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Part of me still expected him to be angry, to yell, to blame me for showing weakness. But he didn't do any of that. He just leaned forward, elbows on his knees, stared at the carpet and said, "They'll always wait for the crack. That's when they strike. But don't swing at shadows. Don't play their game. Write your own." And for the first time, I saw it. Not the president, not the tycoon, not the man the world cheers or boos. I saw a father who had been taught to turn pain into posture his whole life. And maybe, for one moment, he didn't want that for me. There was no lecture, no plan. Just one truth. Win yourself back, son. That's the only battle that counts. And in that moment, for the first time in my life, I stopped trying to impress him and started trying to understand him. A few nights later I couldn't sleep, not because of the internet, not even because of the video. I just kept replaying what he said. Win yourself back. But how? I found myself wandering through the East Wing, that part of the house where silence feels older than the walls. I wasn't looking for anything, but I found something anyway. It was tucked inside the back of a drawer. Thin, folded, worn at the edges, a letter. No envelope, no seal, just my name, written in her handwriting. Mom. I sat down on the floor. Bare tile, no lights, just the soft hum of the house at night, and I opened it. Barron. If you ever feel lost between who they say you are and who you hope to be, let yourself be both for a while. You are not broken, you are becoming, and you do not need to be your father's echo to be someone worth listening to. I froze. She'd never said those words out loud, not once. But somehow, she wrote what I didn't know I needed to hear. If you want to step out of a shadow, don't run. Turn, face the sun, and make a shadow of your own. She never gave me that letter. Maybe she didn't think I was ready, or maybe she was waiting for the moment I'd find it. On my own. And I did. And for the first time, I didn't feel like a reflection. I felt real. After I read the letter, I didn't sleep. I couldn't. I just stared at the ceiling as if it might whisper back the answers I was too scared to say out loud. One question kept circling in my head. Slow, deliberate, sharp. If I'm not his son, then who the hell am I? And not in the dramatic TV monologue kind of way. It was quieter than that. Like a thread unraveling inside me. One quiet tug at a time. Because here's the thing they don't tell you. When your identity has always been an inheritance, discovering yourself feels like betrayal. What do you do when every compliment feels like a comparison, and every silence feels like a warning not to stray too far? That night I opened a notebook, blank pages, no agenda, and I started writing, not posts, not speeches, questions. What makes me feel free? Do I like the way I laugh? Would I still believe what I believe if no one was watching? Some were messy. Some were scary. One hit harder than I expected. What if I'm not meant to follow his footsteps, but to walk barefoot into places he never dared to go? I didn't write answers, not yet. But for the first time in my life, I stopped asking who I needed to become for them, and started wondering who I might become for me. I didn't plan to create anything. Not art, not a message, not a movement. I just needed to breathe, to get something, anything, out of my head and into the world without it being dissected, debated, or politicized. So one night, I opened an old iPad I hadn't touched in years. No apps, no cloud, just a blank canvas and a digital pen. And I drew. At first it was simple. Shapes, lines, motion without meaning, but then I started sketching faces. Not mine. Not his, strangers. A girl in a hoodie, hiding her tears behind math homework. A boy staring at his reflection like it was a stranger. A teacher gripping a coffee cup with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. I didn't name them. I didn't post them, I printed them, and I started leaving them, in subway cars, bus stops, under windshield wipers, taped to telephone poles. Each one had a small message scribbled underneath. You are not invisible. You are not the name they gave you. You are not alone. No signature, no social media handle, just a whisper in the middle of a loud world. I thought no one would notice. Until one morning, someone posted a photo of one of my drawings. It went viral, not because of who made it, but because of how it made people feel. That's when I realized, maybe I'd never escape the name, but maybe I could transform it. Not into a brand, but into a bridge. A quiet way to reach others who've also been trying to escape the frame they were forced into. A few weeks later, I was walking through the city hood, head down, just watching life happen around me, when I saw something that stopped me cold. It was one of my sketches, not taped to a pole, but taped to someone's backpack. A girl, maybe 17, standing at the corner waiting for the light to change. She didn't know I was behind her. She didn't know I had drawn it. But there it was. Folded, faded, worn at the edges like it had been held too many times. Maybe when things got too loud. Maybe when she needed to remember she wasn't alone. That's when it hit me. I never needed to be famous. I just needed to be real, not recognized, not followed, felt. And maybe that's what a name is supposed to mean. Not a brand, not a legacy, but a way to tell someone, hey, I made it through, you can too. I still don't have all the answers, I probably never will. But for the first time in my life, I'm not living in someone else's story. I'm writing mine. One sketch, one whisper, one small act of courage at a time. And if you've ever felt like a question in a world full of loud answers, welcome, you're not late, you're right on time. This story isn't about a name you recognize. It's about the person behind it finally learning to speak. And if that voice sounds a little like yours too, then maybe, just maybe, you've already started writing your own.